go. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga for hips and hands. Oh, I forgot to bring out my little squishy guy. So we're doing hands today, and we're doing hips. What I have for hips is a yoga block and a strap or a hand towel. We're going to be doing a passive hip flexor release. This is a supported bridge. So we're going to be staying on our back for a little bit as we release really tight hip flexors. So before we get down on the mat, I just want to show you where we're going to be placing the block. It's not up here into our low back. It's down on this broad part of the pelvis just above the tailbone. So I want you to, it's going to feel right to you once you get down for that. So have that block or whatever you're using, a pillow, what have you, close by, and your little squishy ball and a strap. And we're starting on our backs today. So come on down, get yourself nice and comfortable on your back. And we are going to start with egg beaters to warm up the hips. Get yourself nice and comfy. I have a little bit of a blanket behind the head to keep my head neutral. And let's just bring the knees up toward your chest and press your lower back firmly down into the mat. And you can tell if you've got the core connected, because if you start to let your lower back lift up, you're going to feel a little arch in your back. So I want you to prevent that by pushing down with the low back into the mat and keep that there as we bring the knees toward your chest. Keep your feet together. Open just your knees apart like a clamshell. Press your knees away from you. Keep your low back down. Close your knees together. Then we come in chest, out, around, and together. So if you start to feel your lower back lift up off the floor when your knees come away from you, try not to go away as far. So keeping that low back grounded and your pelvis stable is going to be really important here. And your feet are staying together, so it looks like you're opening out into a butterfly and then closing back in. So this action of the hips is called circumduction, and it's precisely that. We're circling the femur into the hip socket and just getting that synovial fluid into the joint, warming it up for our stretches later in class. Let's come around one more time this way. And then, of course, we're going to reverse our egg beater. So the legs go away from you. We separate them, circle around, and bring the knees back into each other. And I'm using my hands to kind of guide my knees around, but you certainly don't have to do that. You could put your arms down, and just challenge yourself with your core and your hips and a nice range of motion. Now I'm starting to feel my low back lift up a little bit right about here. So I'm going to just kind of pull back a little bit and not go quite as far. It doesn't really change what you're doing with the circular movement in the acetabulum of the hip joint. It just takes a little bit of that pressure away from your pelvis and your core. And let's do one more around this direction. And once you come back together, place your feet hips distance apart right down onto the mat. And we'll just tuck the pelvis, press that low back down, roll up into a bridge. And then from the top of the spine, start to roll down nice and slow. That low back presses into the mat again, and then we rock the pelvis back to neutral. And then tuck and lift. Roll down and come to neutral. So as we do this and come up, we're tightening our glute muscles. This helps us to release our hip flexors a little bit. And it's going to prepare us for our supported bridge, and we'll be holding that nice hip flexor release. Good, let's do 2 more bridging at your own pace. Rolling down like a string of pearls on a necklace, 1 bead at a time. And then 1 more. All right, so I want you to grab your yoga block or whatever you're going to use for our supported bridge. So we'll roll up into that bridge and then take your prop and place it right underneath the wide part of the pelvis. Again, not on your low back. And then as we hold this here, we're going to take the right heel along the floor. So we'll extend it out until you feel the leg lengthen and your hip flexor slightly stretch here, and then drag it back in. And let's glide it out. And bring it back in. Now our yoga block has 3 different heights that we can flip it to. Mine is currently on the lowest, but you can experiment with that and maybe flip it to medium height. For most of us, I think the highest position of the block would not be probably appropriate for us. All right, let's glide that heel out one more time until your leg is straight or pretty close to straight. And then what I want you to do is rotate your thigh bone out and in. So you're just going to roll the toes open and then bring them back across. But we're trying to do it from the thigh bone, not just from your foot or your ankle. And this might not be very much mobility, but whatever you have, we're just adding rotation while we are in a little bit of hip extension. It might feel more comfortable for you to go out than it is to come in, or more range of motion. And then bring it back right to the center, and then totally relax this leg. Feel the stretch here. So we can stay just as we are, or if it feels okay for you, we can bring this left knee up and hug it in toward the chest. You can use your yoga strap or your hand towel to loop it around to pull in. Now this is going to try to shift the pelvis to the posterior, which will give us a deeper stretch right here through the hip flexor. Another layer we can add on is to stretch our hamstring on the left side. So we could extend the leg up and pull here, or loop your strap around the bottom of your foot. All right, so once you have the one that you like, I'm just going to turn my timer on here. And let's just hold. And really consciously try to relax this right hip flexor. This is my main goal of this stretch. So whatever else you're doing on the left side is just all up to you. But if what you're doing here is affecting the right side, so you're not getting a good stretch, then adjust and change it so you can mostly focus on that right hip flexor side. Allow that right leg to feel heavy. And certainly if the block or whatever you have under your back is bothering you, it's not feeling good, just slide it out and do this directly flat on the floor. That's absolutely fine. You'll still get some lengthening of that muscle. But elevating our pelvis is really giving us that little extra. Okay, one more breath here. And then this left foot will come back down, setting it to your mat. Glide the right heel back in. And just pause and notice, what are you feeling? Good, bad, or indifferent? Just observing. Now the left heel will drag along the mat, extending it forward, and then drag it back in. So this is more of an active stretch through movement. It gives us some time just to analyze how this feels on this side of our body while the sensations are dissipating from the right side. Let's do one more, dragging it out and pulling it back in. And then lengthen it out all the way, maybe even completely straight. And then roll your thigh out and back in. It's hard not to do it just by moving your ankle. So really roll it right from the top of the thigh. This works some really small muscles with rotation of the femur. Or I shouldn't say small muscles, muscles that we don't often activate in this way. And then just let your leg hover back to the center and completely relax that leg. Just let it feel heavy, let it drop. And you can stay just like this for the entire duration, or we can pull that right knee up toward the chest. And we can use our yoga strap if that's a little bit easier for you to pull it in. Now you might have to readjust your block where it's at on your pelvis once you pull the knee up, because sometimes that little adjustment makes it feel like you just need to get it in a more comfortable spot. And if you like the hamstring stretch on this side, we can take the leg up. Good, take your time, get to where you want to hold. Taking a look at my timer. Just relax and breathe. If you've got the leg up in that hamstring stretch, you could add some circles of the ankle or flex and point. That's great as well. And just notice if there's anywhere you're tensing, maybe up in your shoulders, just really relax. I am tensing in my hands a little bit and my arms just to pull in with the yoga strap, but I'm trying not to let that affect my neck or trapezius muscles. So those are the ones that elevate your shoulders up toward your ears. And about 2 more breaths here. And when you're ready, let's release it down so the right foot finds the mat. The left heel drags back in. And we'll pause. Now, if your low back is really starting to bother you, you can bring that block out at this moment and just extend your legs long or keep your knees bent. If you're doing pretty good, I'd like to see if you can try to extend both legs long. And you can do it one at a time. Just slide one leg out and then slide the other. And this is like a supported locust in reverse. So locust, usually we're laying on our belly and we have our legs lifted up behind us and maybe even the chest. So this is a reverse locust supporting on the block. You can remain still, or you can rotate both thighs out and in a little bit. And if you don't like the block, you've pulled it out, and you don't like your legs straight, just bend your knees and open out and in from a butterfly position, where you're just opening the hips and closing. All right, one more breath here. And drag those knees back in, feet flat on the mat. Let's press up into our bridge to remove the yoga block or prop. And then very slowly from the top of the spine, one bone at a time, roll down, really pressing that low back into the floor. And then let's pull those knees up toward the chest into a nice tight ball here. You can rock a little bit from side to side. You could do a few egg beaters or just circle your knees, keeping them together around a few times, one direction, and then reversing. All right, let's take your time to come up to a standing position. I'm going to roll over to a side and press up. We all have our best ways to come up to a stand. And just check in. How do those hip flexors feel? Now I'm going to keep my hand towel or your yoga strap. You can have that at the ready with you. Come to the top of your mat. Our right foot will be the front leg. The left foot will step back, and you can step back into warrior one, where the foot is planted flat with a slight turn out of the toe, or you can step back into high crescent lunge if you want to work your balance a little bit more. Your heel is lifted off the floor, and your pelvis is directly forward. So engage your left glute a little bit. Tighten it up, releasing that left hip flexor, and take your yoga strap into your left hand, and then reach that arm up and drape it behind your back. So if you're feeling pretty tight in that left tricep or shoulder, we can use the right arm to pull the elbow back a little bit more. And then we are going to come into cow face arms. We call it sometimes our back scratch stretch, by taking the right arm, reaching it behind the back so that you can find your yoga strap or your hand towel dangling back there, and then try to inch your fingers as closely as you can together on the strap. If you don't have anything today, you can do this without holding on to the strap. Just reach left hand behind and then right as well, and try to inch them as close as you can together. We're still engaging the left glute. Right knee is bent. The knee is directly over the heel, tracking toward the center toes. Now we can give this a little small side bend to the right. It's going to affect your balance, so take it slow and side stretch over. This is going to open up that hip flexor just a little bit more. There's a lot going on here, so if you need to drop any of these options to concentrate on the one you want to work on, give yourself that permission. Okay, let's come up out of the side bend. Release carefully the bottom arm first, and then release the top arm. And we'll step the back foot forward to meet the front foot. And my left knee said, ooh, that was a lot. All right. Let's prepare for the other side. So now your left foot will be the front foot, the right foot steps back. We can turn the toes out slightly for warrior one, but we still want the hips facing directly forward. Or we can come to the ball of the foot, lifting the heel. And make sure your feet aren't one behind the other like you're standing on a balance beam. We want railroad track feet for this, about hips distance apart, or a little wider if you need for a wider base of support. Engage the right glute, tighten it up a little bit to open up the right hip flexor. Take the strap in the right hand, reach it up, let it extend back behind you. We can take the left hand to pull the elbow back a little bit to get more of a stretch. And then revolve that left arm behind the back. The back of your hand is facing towards your body, your palm facing away. Grab the strap and start to inch your fingers as closely together as you can. Keep your abdominals in super tight. Try to pull your shoulder blades back toward each other a little bit. Your eye gaze should be straight forward. Sometimes when we put this hand behind our head, there's a tendency to drop our chin. So keep pushing the head back. And then an option to take a little baby side bend over to the left. Keep engaging the right glute. Keep the breath moving. So much to think about here. Good. Try to stay here another 2-3 breaths. Coming up from the side bend first, releasing the bottom arm second, top arm third, stepping the back foot forward. Roll the shoulders up, back, and down. And then we are going to move into a down dog. So if you have your chair right in front of you and you like downward dog on the chair, that's wonderful. We'll take an inhale, reach up. Exhale, swan dive down, hands to the chair or floor. Step the feet back behind you and come into your down dog. And then I'll just give you about a minute or so to play here in your down dog. A favorite is to kind of pedal out the feet a little bit, especially if you're down onto your mat. That gives you a deeper stretch through your calf on one side and then the other. And really press away from your hands so that your wrists are as straight as you can get them. One common error here in down dog is to be more like this. And then you got a lot of pressure on your wrists. And just drop both heels down. Couple more breaths, really elongate. Slightly tip your tailbone up behind you. And then take a little recovery. So if you're on your mat, you might like to drop your knees down, take a child's pose. Hang on just a second, I need to get my little padding here. Or if you're using your chair, you might like to just stand straight up. Okay, so we're going to be working through the hips. I'm going to come back up to the chair so I can show you this next pose from the chair, but you can stay down onto your mat. So we'll press back to our down dog, either mat or chair. And take your right leg and extend it back behind you and bend your knee. And we are going to open that knee out to the side, holding it out. Squeeze your glute and press the leg away. and then bring it back in. So we have the knee away from the midline of the body, and then we tighten the glute and release. I'll keep going, have you keep going. I'll come down to the floor and show that option there on the mat. The leg is up, the knee is bent, the knee is open, and we push back. Now you can also do this from your hands and knees, especially if you don't have a chair to work with, and so the mat is really putting a lot of pressure onto your wrists. All right, let's bring that knee back in. Set your foot back down to your down dog, and then take a rest. Maybe child's pose. I'm going to walk back up to the top of the mat and take a stand and shake out the wrists a little bit. So what this is doing is it's putting our knee in abduction and then coming back behind us into extension. So it's opening up that hip with our knee abducted. Let's try it on the other side. So we're back into our down dog, chair or mat, or hands and knees on the mat as well. Take the left leg behind you, bend your knee, abduct the knee away from you, and then push back and bring it back in. So the knee stays abducted the entire time with this exercise. And squeeze back. Bring it in. And again, be sure that you're making the adjustments you need for your body so that you're focusing on the hip, not worrying about pain in your wrists or your low back. Make this feel right for you. All right, one more pressing back. Bring it in. Close the knee. Come back to your down dog. Take a break. And then we're going to come back to a stand. So if you're on your mat, you're in your child's pose, make your way back toward the top of your mat and come up. So we are going to be doing balance, hip openers, and hand strength. So the first thing you'll need is your stress ball. Second thing you might need is a chair or a wall to give you a little bit of help for balance. So stand on your right foot, take the stress ball into your left hand. We are going to bring the left knee up. So this is our single leg stance. Then we'll open that knee out and hold. So it's whatever distance that you can open up through that knee. And then I want you to draw the knee down. So watch my ankle lift out to the side and then draw the knee up. So the ankle's going to come in. So it's a little bit like that pendulum swing that we did in class. Good. So what I want you to do is hold that stress ball in your hand, fold your thumb across it, and press into the thumb, or press the thumb into that stress ball. And you can hold it, or you can push and release. So my thumb is across my hand, pushing down into that stress ball. Now once you have the thumb pressed, wrap your fingers and squeeze the ball and release just the fingers. Good. So it's our left hand and our left leg that we're working at the same time, balancing on the right. Thumb is pressing across. Fingers are wrapping around. You can do it even without a stress ball. Nice. Now bring that ankle across. We can set it right here on the thigh or a little bit lower, wherever you feel comfortable. And bend your standing knee, coming down into a standing pigeon. I'm just relaxing the hand. Good. Now, if you want, you can release that chair. Try to balance here. You can bring the hands together and press into the ball. Good, good, good. All right, let's come up slow. Straightening the standing leg, uncrossing and stepping down. Repeating to the other side. And bring that chair to the other side so I'm still facing forward. You can turn around if you'd like. Stress ball in the right hand, standing on the left foot. We'll start just with the leg. So we'll bring the knee up. You can flex your ankle. We'll open the knee out. And then from here, the knee comes in, so the ankle goes out. And then the knee goes out and the ankle comes in. So as best as you can, try not to move your pelvis and get this kind of going. Just move your leg, whatever pace works for you. Then we'll fold the thumb across the ball and press down. You can press release or press and hold. Then fold your fingers across. Squeeze the ball with the fingers and then release. Good. Thumb stays folded across. Squeeze. Release. Maybe balance. Squeeze. Release. Pick and choose whatever is in this sequence that works for you. That's what our levels are all about. See what you can work with today. Good, let's get a couple more. Thumb is still folded across. Squeeze, release the fingers. Whoop, my knee came in. Rotate that thigh bone. Then bring it across. Place that leg here or here. You can even touch your foot down to the mat. And we are going to start to bend that standing leg. Sink down. See if you can balance in your standing pigeon. Maybe you press the ball between the hands. Oh, this is kind of nice. See how I'm using my chair to help me balance? This little elbow right here. I like that. That works out really great. Nice job. Chest is folded forward slightly for that standing pigeon. One more breath. All right, take your time to come up, uncross the leg, and release. My chair is coming back to the top of the mat. Okay, so we have got standing half moon pose. So I'm going to use my chair. You can use a block for this also. We're going to stand on the right foot in front and then bring your hands to your chair. You can do this on the floor as well and lift your left leg up behind you and turn your toes out to the left side. And then just your right hand will be on the chair, left hand on your hip. And then we are going to try to turn the torso toward the side wall and maybe even reach this left arm up. Now, if you're saying, wait, this is way too much for me today, just not working, then I want you to bring both hands down to your prop and just rotate your pelvis. So you're trying to stack your left hip on top of your right. And then really straighten that left leg. This can be a really challenging pose, but there are options to take. You can even do it down on your knee. Just extend that leg back behind you and turn your thigh open just like you're doing bird dog. Couple more breaths here. Half moon pose. Maybe try releasing the chair, balancing for a moment. Okay, bring yourself out, exit that pose, lowering the leg. That can be a lot of stability in your standing leg. You can feel a lot of work in those stabilizer muscles. Okay, let's try it on the left. Take a breath. Step your right foot back. You can bring both hands to the chair, lift that leg up behind you, and then we're going to turn the foot out to the right, rotating the whole leg, and then try to stack the hips right on top of left. Right hand can come to your hip. Left hand to the chair, or that right arm can lift up. Or you can keep both hands down on the chair and just rotate the pelvis to stack. Your standing leg can be completely straight as long as you're not locking out your knee, or you can keep a little bit of a bend in it. If you don't have a chair, yoga strap works, or yoga block, works very good for this pose as well. Or some of you might be able to do it without any props at all, or hand down onto the floor. Couple more breaths. For a big balance challenge, you can turn your face up and look toward that hand or the ceiling. All right, let's release down. Both hands come to the chair. And both feet. And we'll rise up. Shake out those legs a little bit, roll the shoulders back. Now we're going to come down to our hands and knees. I'll get my little pad ready here. So you can swan dive down into a forward fold, step back to all fours. And come to hands and knees. All right, we've got a nice thread the needle coming up, one of my favorites. If you would like to use your stress ball, you can place it in your right hand. We're going to do our thread the needle a little bit differently today. So we'll lift this right arm up to stretch open. You can give the ball a squeeze and wrap it behind your back or put it right on your hip, whatever range of motion you have here. Then reach it back up and thread it down through. And I just want you to get kind of creative with what you're doing with the stress ball. So a couple of weeks ago, we pinched the ball between the index finger and the thumb, and then we switched it to the middle finger and the thumb, then the ring finger and the thumb and the pinky. So you can try some of those pinches and maybe switch fingers on each time you do this movement. Or you can just squeeze everything, tightening your hand, working on your forearm muscles. Now, if this piece bothers the shoulder, don't worry about it. Just do a traditional thread the needle, gliding down and gliding up. Good job. That feels like a good number. Let's do one more. And then hold the arm through this time. Reach the left hand way up toward the top of your mat and stretch your lats. You can still be working the hand here on the right side with your stress ball. Squeezing and releasing, or isometric squeeze hold, or working on each finger. All right, let's get ready to come out. So we'll draw the left hand under the shoulder. Press up, just reach one time here, hold, and then lower down. We're going to take a nice big step forward with this right foot. I pointed to my right and I said left. That's my mirroring technique. Okay, so big step forward with this right foot, so we're in a hip flexor stretch. We're going to take the ball, place it right between the heels of the hands, and push in and twist to the right. Now we can hold this upright, or we can bring this left elbow across and anchor that pose and hold. So I'm pushing in, flexing through the wrists, engaging into that ball, and twisting, releasing the left hip flexor. Good, 2 more breaths here. Drop those shoulder blades down. Nice, come back to the center. Then we can reach down to the floor or to our yoga block or to our chair and straighten the front leg and stretch the hamstring. Bring my chair in a little closer. So we're folding over that front leg, lengthening the hamstring muscle, pulling up the toes. Nice slow exhalations, really sink down with the chest, elongate. All right, let's get the other side done. So this right leg is going to swing back around. Hands and knees, you'll take your stress ball in the left hand. For our thread the needle sequence, we'll reach that left arm up. Either place the hand to your hip or wrap the arm behind your back. Reach up and thread through. We can create a nice breathing pattern with this. We can inhale as we reach. Exhale to rotate back. Inhale to reach. Exhale to thread through. Now you're going to work your hands. So maybe pinching the index finger and the thumb on the ball for 1 repetition. Then moving to the middle finger and so on. And if you don't have a stress ball, you can still pinch the finger and the thumb and create tension without having that prop. Boy, that ring finger and baby finger are really weak here on my left hand. Do what you can. Let's do 1 more repetition. And we'll hold our thread the needle through and reach the right arm way out toward the top of the mat. Try to even out your pelvis So the hips are directly over the knees. So ideally, a thread the needle isn't like so much like a child's pose where you're sitting your bum back on your heels. Your bum is over your knees, kind of about a 90-degree bend in the knees. This puts the spine in a nice position for the twist. All right, let's press up that right arm. We'll take one more opening inhale and come down. Okay, our left foot steps forward as we come into our kneeling lunge. And take your time to get your position right. So we want to be sure we're not up here where this hip is over the knee. We want that hip to drop forward. And then we'll take our stress ball between the heels of the hands, squeeze in, lifting the elbows up slightly, twist to the left. And we can bring that right elbow across. And try to keep lengthening your spine as you're holding this twist. Keep the breathing going. And we can engage the right glute here to give us a little bit more hip flexor release. Just take two more nice, generous breaths. Very good. Come back up from the center line and we'll straighten out this front leg, shifting back into our hamstring stretch. Use whatever props you need, chair, block, floor. Pull the toes up to lengthen that entire posterior chain. All right, we're here for a few breaths, so really try to relax. Get the most out of that hamstring release. Maybe about another 15 seconds. All right, let's come back to both hands, both knees. And earlier in class today, when we had the block under the pelvis, we did a reverse locust. So now we're going to do a regular locust down on the belly. So I'd like for you to come all the way down to lay prone on your tummy. And then we can make a little bit of a pillow for our forehead by just stacking the hands and just resting the forehead down. That way you can keep your head pretty neutral. And then tighten the right glute and try to pick the right leg up off the floor with a pretty much straight leg. So you're not just bending the knee to get the leg to lift, you're lifting from the hip. And then set that right leg down. Lift the left leg up. If your hip flexors are pretty tight, it might only come a couple of inches off the mat. That's okay. You're getting that connection with the muscle. And relax. Let's do one more on each side. Right leg lifts. And down. Left leg lifts. And down. Now you can continue alternating sides, or we can try both legs lift and both legs lower. Both legs lift and lower. We can add the upper body. You can use your hands just a little bit as both legs lift. The chest comes up and you're just using your arms a tiny bit. And lower. Traditional locust, the hands come back behind you with your palms either in towards your legs or up toward the ceiling. And we lift up and down. We can also lift and hold. So you have a lot of options here. Just the legs one at a time, just the legs together, the legs and the upper body moving up and down, or holding. Let's get 30 seconds more here of your choice on your locust. Your head should stay pretty neutral, so try not to jet your chin forward and pinch the back of your neck. Keep your breathing nice and steady. 10 seconds. And then you can make that pillow back underneath your forehead as you lower the legs and you relax. We'll finish our practice from a seated position. If you prefer to come up and sit in your chair, you can do that. We'll be in a seated straddle stretch. I'm just going to push myself over to a side and sit up, and I like to use my blanket to sit on, just to lift those hips a little bit. So sitting in the chair, you're going to come toward the front edge of that chair. That's going to make it a little bit more comfortable for the stretch. And then just take your legs any amount wide that feels good for your hips. Doesn't have to be crazy wide. And sit tall. Nice long spine. And then if you need a little prop here in front of you to hold up for a stretch at any height, you can do that. And we'll start to walk our fingers out any amount, stretching forward. Now this should feel pretty good in your low back after the locust that we just did. So I kind of want you to stretch out that lumbar spine as you sink down into this stretch. And as you hold, you might find that you can go just a little deeper. So I'd like for us to hold here about 2 minutes. I can take a look at my clock here. And I'd like for you to do what you would like with these 2 minutes. So maybe you're just staying right here. Perhaps you're going over to the right leg for a couple of breaths and then the left. Or maybe adding a side stretch on each side. So you choose. And you don't have to follow what my body's requesting it needs today. It's whatever yours needs. And if that means that the wide straddle stretch isn't the one for you today, completely switch it. Make this a good stretch for your body. Your knees can be bent just a little bit, if that helps your low back. And try to keep both sitting bones firmly down into the mat. And about 45 seconds to go.